right, welcome back to part 2 of the therapy session. I know that was a clickbaity title. I know it was, but I didn't really know what else to call it. It's really just a conversation. It's a conversation that Jen and I were having before we were recording, and then at some point, probably me, but one of us was like, "Want to record this?" Because it might be helpful for other people, or even if it's not helpful, just be interesting for other people to see where I was at. Because as I mentioned, the finale left me feeling a little. I don't want to, the words. I don't really know how to describe it. It just left me feeling, as I said last time, some kind of way about the show. And so in this video, the last one we talked about Swan. In this video, we're going to be talking about Nynaeve, my girl, who is also, incidentally, Jen's girl. Jen, absolutely, she's as much of a Nynaeve stan as I am. Jen, by the way, in case you don't know, she is a professional screenwriter and showrunner, and she is also part of the Three-Wheeling podcast that she records with Rob from Malkier Talks and her sister Meg. And she is amazing and smart and knows way more. She knows infinitely more than me about writing for television and production and all of the thought processes that go into what makes a story for television. Way more than I'm sure most of us do. So I really wanted to know her thoughts. And yeah, I'm hoping this is interesting for you. But spoilers in this one, I'm going to say go through to book 8, which I think is Path of Daggers. Book 8 of The Wheel of Time. I don't think there's anything beyond there, though, but just beware going into this. I don't think we reference anything beyond book 8, though. So, yeah, if you've read that far, you are definitely safe. And obviously, yes, spoilers for the entire aired episodes, up until the season finale of season 3. So, yeah, with that out of the way, then let's get into this conversation.
Let's be nerdy with Lezbi Nerdy. Let's be nerdy with Lezbi Nerdy.
Let's get back into it. And
Yes.
it's hilarious that you've changed location for this, because we're about to start talking about, a new character, but our shared love.
I traveled to a different part of my house, and here we are.
Yes.
To
This will
clear
probably
the
be a
palate.
second video. Yes, so it's probably a second video, because we talked for like an hour about Swan.
We did. We
Yes.
did. There was a lot to talk about.
There was.
Shows my notes are on the floor.
Oh, okay. Oh, I love that you have notes. You're always so prepared.
No, I'm not prepared. I take notes as I go, is what it comes down to. But then I drop them, and then I have to bend out of frame. And
That's
then
okay. We'll all
it's
be
very
obsessing
awkward.
about your bookshelf.
Oh, excellent. Which, if I just tip it up a little, you can see there's the Wheel of Time.
There's the Wheel of Time. I see it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yes.
but today we're down here on Shakespeare, so there we go.
Yes. Okay. So I think there are several people who were actually surprised by how frustrated I was by Nynaeve's arc, or lack of arc in the finale. I don't know what you've seen in my content, but if you watched my reaction, you would have seen me actually start to panic at a certain point, at when they were on the boat. And I think I even said this in my breakdown, props to the show. I hadn't realized how far into the episode we were until they were on the boat. And then they were getting on the boat, and I was like, oh my God, the episode's almost over. What the fuck? What the fuck? That was what was going on in my head. Nynaeve didn't do her thing. And she had that great, Moses moment. And I actually, because the show made her block so debilitating, I do think that they had to break it sooner than it was broken in the books, just because in the books, she's blocked, and it is a point of frustration for her that I think a lot of people miss when they're reading it. They don't realize how much that is she feels like it's a personal failing, which she sort of, if you're not paying attention to Nynaeve, you won't necessarily see that. But that's a part of her personality. But yeah, the show made it her block so much more debilitating, so they had to break it sooner, which I was okay with that. But my issue with what go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say they made it on off. In the books it's if she, there's the moment when Elaine is like, no, she's making herself angry. That's good.
Yeah.
She has ways to get around it, and she has it for so long in the books that like she would have done nothing for 7 books or whatever. Like, so it's,
Yeah.
because it's black and white, because it's black and white in the show, and they're just like, she hasn't channeled since came back to the tower. Like,
Yeah.
I just think it was a lot easier for the show to be like on off, as opposed to like little bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah. So I agree with
other than in the Terangrial. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Or like with the collar, the collar. She
The
channels at the
Shanchan.
collar.
Oh, right. She
Yes.
channels right.
Yeah.
Oh, but through the bracelet, the Adam. Mm-hmm. Right.
No, in season 2, she just has like one burst of power at the collar
Oh,
with
right.
Rima.
Yeah.
And that's why Rima
Yes.
gets caught. I think my issue is that I was expecting her to actually do something useful, because for 2 seasons she's done nothing. And I'm gonna say,
Uh-huh.
like, I'm doing reactions with my sister. We still haven't done the final 2 episodes of the season. My sister even called it out, and promise you, I am not prompting my sister. Like, I'm not. She knows Nynaeve is my favorite, but that's
Yeah.
like, we haven't really talked about it. And she even said in the last episode that we reacted to together, she's like, "I need Nynaeve to do something. I'm getting fucking tired of this." Like, that was her comment. I was like, "Yeah, it's been 2 seasons. It's been 2
Uh-huh.
seasons of Nynaeve being useless, and actually less than useless. Like, she's not just useless. What she does makes things worse, and that's not who Nynaeve is. And in the books, okay, I'm gonna like monologue at you with all of my issues with it, but like,
Go for it.
the amount of posts I've seen and commentary I've seen from people who are just show watchers who are like, I hate Nynaeve. And if they were hating her for the reasons that like your normal Redditors hate her, like who read the books, are like, she's so rude and aggressive, that would be one thing. But they're like, I hate her. Like, everything she does makes everything worse. She's useless. I don't know why she's in this story. And then like people I've introduced the show to, so like my sister, but also I actually introduced, I'm an evangelist for this show. I've introduced it to several people at my job, including a couple of
Uh-huh.
parents. And one of them, uh, she'll mention Nynaeve to me because I did mention, like, she's another Black woman. And I mentioned her just because we were talking about braids, actually. And I mentioned Nynaeve to her. That's how it came up. It wasn't like, watch the Black lady. It was a whole organic conversation that I can't fully articulate here. But she'll mention Nynaeve, but she will mention her, and I can feel it. Like, she's like, oh, and Jenny cares what I think about Nynaeve, so I'll just say something about her. Like, it's not like any. She'll talk about everybody else, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah," and then Nynaeve did this, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, you obviously didn't care about what
Interesting.
Nynaeve did at all." And then the other one, another parent that like she would want to talk to me about it after we talked about her child, she'd be like, "Oh yeah," talking about the show, and then I would have to say, "And what about Nynaeve?" And she'd be like, "Who?" Like, literally, yes. That's like the impact, and that to me is worse. Like, the fact that people
Hmm.
who are watching the show are not caring about Nynaeve is almost worse to me than the people who are hating her, because and the people who are hating her for the wrong reason. But I would prefer people hate her than, like, literally, I don't care that she's in the show. I don't know why she's there. Because,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. And just to give a different, I mean, I have a more limited show watchers only
Mhm.
group, sort of, kind of. That's curious. Now I'm like, I'm starting to. I've met a few more recently, so I'm going to ask them. I'm going to be like, what do you think?
Yeah.
But so David, my husband, who is a book reader now and is currently in Fires of Heaven,
Okay.
he loves her in the show and loves her because of the show, not because of the books. Like,
Right.
absolutely loves her. Maybe because she's, I don't know. I have anger issues. We'll just put that there. Like, maybe he sees a little more of me and her than
Yeah.
and the sort of and being frustrated and feeling like she's not able to do anything. So that's interesting. But he loves her. He loves her in the show, and he loves what she's doing in the show. And he was in. So you and I talked right after the show, and I was also like 100%. I was just like, I wanted her to run back in there. I wanted to see her kick some butt. I wanted to see
Yeah.
her like lash out and like see that. If we weren't going to get the Moggy, like to get it with Leandrin, like to see this like actual bloom. That's how I felt the first day, and what I was talking to you, and how I felt when I was watching it. And I was like, I'm going to try to like step back and not like get too caught up in the feelings. And in retrospect, I felt less so. But all I'm saying is that David is a book reader now, but he was
Yeah,
like, oh no, that was exactly right. I wanted to see her be there and then, but not do anything yet because I can't wait to see where it's going to go. And so he wasn't bothered by that as much. And then also Zach, my son, who's 15, who is not a book reader yet. We'll get there. But he is not reading the books, but he really likes her in the show. Like, he thinks she's really cool. He does know she's my favorite character too. So he might be just paying more attention to her because, so there's that. And I'll have to ask him about it. And he actually hasn't seen the last episode yet. So,
okay.
but all season, he's been like, is she going to break? Is she going to be able to start channeling again? Is she going to be able to start channeling again? Like, he can't, he's like, come on already. So he's definitely feeling that, like, let's get that going. And I agree. I mean, you and I talked about that too. I do think that the placement of that at this part of the season, it's funny because in my head, in the books, it happens at the very end. And it doesn't. It's like halfway through the book series when she breaks the block. But like,
yeah.
it's not that. But
It's because Nynaeve kind of, Robert Jordan sort of seemed to not know what to do with her after she broke her block.
Well, yeah. And also because my time period of reading the books was like, I started in so long ago, and then it wasn't until 10 years later.
Yeah, those are the books that we've read over and over. Those are the ones we've read the most. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, so it feels like it's a really long time in the book series. And it's also such a big part of our identity in the book series. And while it is in the show, I think this is an interesting choice because I think, like, first of all, I love it when Leandrin says there are other ways to be able to channel. You don't have to be calm. And like, and then we see Leandrin using her anger in this season. So I love that she set that up at the beginning. And I also love that somebody says to her, and now I can't remember who it was, who says, Elaine says, use what you know at the end of season 2. You know, when she's got the arrow, the crossbow thing in her leg. And then
Rima gives her some advice, and the sea folk also give her advice.
Yeah. Rima says, like, yes, do it the way, you know, it's heal just without thinking about it, like the way you do when you're a wisdom. But then somebody even says it this season of like, use what you know to help Matt. Like she has this relationship with Matt where Matt goes to the healers, they can't fix him. And she says, tell me what you're hearing. Let's walk through it together. Let's talk about it the way we would if I were back in the Two Rivers and I was your wisdom. I think a little bit because she is OP, because she is the strongest channeler in 1,000 years. I think we really have to rely on her saying it isn't about the fact that I can outpower all of you, but I am smart enough and wise enough as a wisdom to be able to know what to do, which is a little bit of Egwene's arc as well, which is, you know, like use what you, it's about what you do with your brain, not with your brawn, essentially. But I think in those elements, if we had just seen her break it and then immediately lash out, it would have in a way undone that idea of you have what you need even if you don't have the power. Because if she had immediately been like, okay, now I got my power back, and like blown everybody away, then the lessons that she has learned, which is trust yourself, trust what you know, think about it, be wise about how you're doing it, wouldn't have mattered if she had somewhere to be able to just go and explode. And so, you know, and also I think that, you know, we were all expecting to sort of wrap up the bracelet story and dump him in the sea. I was sure that was going to happen. And, you know, in the books, that's because that's what happens. But we're going to be combining Abu Dar, but we're going to be combining those stories here. And so, you know, to decide that this is now going to be a pursuit of that, we have to go after it. We have to like travel again to go find them. We have to, that somebody left with them and we know it's a real danger right now. You know, we just, there wasn't room for her to go and just like blast the walls down, because then where do we go next season?
There definitely wasn't room in the episode. I know, like, with how fast that episode went, like, there wasn't room. Yeah.
It did. And, you know, and again, like, this is one of the problems of servicing all these characters is that, you know, I think this is where I get into the trust issue and the, like, please don't fail me with my Nynaeve. Like, you know, really.
That, like, I know everybody thinks that the swan part is the part of the Nynaeve one was the one that was like, no, like, that's. That's
Yeah.
my girl.
I mean, she's one of the, like, she leaves the two, like, there's just, and you and I have talked offline previously about how we
Yeah,
also feel like her storyline wasn't served in the books as well as it should have been.
yeah,
So,
yes, yeah.
but there's that.
Yeah,
'Cause,
yeah.
you know, her constellation. I mean, I am glad. I knew that they would do this. I was 90% sure. I am glad that it wasn't Lan rescuing her out of the water. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Although,
I'm just
okay,
glad that
I will say one of my favorite moments in the books comes right after that, where she's like,
when she
yeah,
gets
no,
all the water out.
no, not just the water out. When
Oh.
when they're like, she asks, let's get married, and he's like, well, I'm still bonded to Morel, and she's like, is there any way for her to know that it's me? Like, that's one of my favorite moments in the books because it's so fucking
Yes,
funny. It's Nynaeve
it's
being like,
so good.
all right, can I put
It
a
is.
signature somehow that she knows you're banging me? Anyway. But yeah, I do. Yeah, having her be rescued.
I love
Anyway.
also just, is there any way for her to know that it's me? As in, like, I mean, I know you've been just like banging every woman between here and the Aiel ways. So how do we make sure that she knows this?
Yes.
I mean, come on. It's Lan.
Yes.
Of course it's
Yes.
you.
Of course.
Oh my God. That's hilarious. I know it is. It's such a good moment. It's such a good moment.
Yeah.
It's so true. But I do think, I mean, you know, this season really had to be about Rand stepping into this role with the Aiel. And I think that it, we had I thought Nynaeve was a part of the storyline that was lighter, that was fun. We got to see her smile. We got to see her laughing with Min. We got to see her building a relationship with Matt. We got to see, her and Elaine, and we got to see her being seasick, and they gave her a reason for being seasick. Like, it wasn't just a joke on her, like in the books, it's really just like a way to make fun of her. And when the sea folk woman was like, you're from the mountains, you're rooted to the ground, you can't be out here. And I was just like, oh my God, that's like you, and you have to control everything, right? And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Like,
the show making me actually like the sea folk was like, okay, that is probably the biggest accomplishment of the show. Oh, okay, I do like them at that point in the books, but like even retroactively when I read them, like, you just are really annoying and I don't care about you. But they're not annoying in the show so far. So
no, it's true.
Okay.
It's true. And I love her getting that advice. So I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I guess, Leandrin ran away, and keeping like, that's the animosity we really care about in the show from season 1, from that woman is a snake, in episode 2 or
the
3.
emotional payoff, the emotional payoff is it being Leandrin who tries to kill her and makes her like that. That's why that Moggy moment is so satisfying in the books, that it's, you tried to kill your nemesis and you actually unleashed her. Like, that's that. So making it that, all of that I agree with. I 100% agree with all of that. I just
it's fair if you're worried about it from an outside perspective of people being like, I'm not invested in this character.
Yeah.
And
but even like
that
even
is
like,
hard for me to,
because the end, I this is I don't know, it even goes back to the swan thing. Like, the way a story ends definitely influences the way, like, retroactively, episode 8 made me like episode 6 less, because I was like, ooh, episode 6 is building towards something that I'm really excited about, and now it's not there, and now I kind of don't care about that stuff that really was exciting to me in episode 6. And because it's, it's just, okay, that she's strong with Moggy, but like, it didn't really lead to anything. And some of, like, we talk about Nynaeve's anger issues. We haven't really seen it very much, to be honest. And I'm okay with it not being there constantly, because obviously you can't have her at a 10 the entire time. Like, that's impossible. But I thought, again, well, if it's not there here, it'll be there later. And it just isn't there enough. And I don't know, I can't remember everything I've said to you offline, but or off video, because we do communicate online. I'm just realizing.
This is true. This is true.
Yes. But I feel like it's been 2 seasons, but that's been like 3 or 4 years. And the next season's going to come like a year, maybe 2 years from now.
At least,
I
because they haven't,
I worry that that's too long. And I actually had somebody in the comments when I said that in a video being like, I want you to understand that this is how Perrin fans are feeling. It's like, oh my God. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, look, okay, from a production standpoint, also, I will say, I thought there were some nice choices that they made about leaving us go, wait, what? That would be valuable for convincing fans that they want to see what's coming next, convincing the studio to go ahead and fund it so we can find out what's going to happen next. So I do think that there were some choices that were out of necessity left to be like, yeah, you want to see what's going to happen when she gets her power back. Just keep watching. And, which is like a callous way of saying it. Like we don't, it's a different kind of cliffhanger.
That's part of the business. Yeah.
It is. But, and it's a positive cliffhanger as opposed to like a negative one in the sense that we're like, oh, this is getting great. I can't wait. And, but with so much time between and with trying to keep people engaged, yes, it is a little bit, it's a gamble. It's a gamble, so I have sort of back and forth feelings on that. And also I just want to see her channel. I want to see her be deft with it. Like I'd like to do something with it. And I'm glad, they could have had her like learning from the Windfinder, but I'm glad they didn't do that because that would have been like anticlimactic. It would have been like not enough. Like that's, just a Band-Aid.
Yeah, I think I think that the way they've done it, again, I agree with them having her break her block. I don't want to say it, but I feel like it's having her block broken before her confrontation with Moggy. If they do the confrontation, please do. But if they do, I think that weakens that confrontation because she's already been stated over and over again. She's heard it. You're the most powerful channeler in 1,000 years. And part of, in my opinion, what makes that confrontation so amazing is Nynaeve realizing how powerful she is in that moment.
Yes.
And she's already heard, she's already knows that she's so powerful. And so having her do it through a block would give us some of that. But now that she's broken her block, it's not going to be like oh, I'm that powerful. Like she already knows.
True, but part of like the other, yes, you bring up a really good point. But I've been looking at it differently because I feel like our worry with Nynaeve is that she peaks, that she can peak too soon. So she peaked in episode 4 of season 1. She peaked when she healed everybody, and then episode 4, it was 4, and so. And then I was like, well, where do you go from here? She can't, like... Basically, everybody else is garbage, comparatively. Like, no one can possibly compete with that. So, and in the books, she has a block. So she's got a block. So that tames her and doesn't let her be OP. But now that she's OP, if she'd been OP when it was only Lanfear or when none of the Forsaken were loose and she had broken it, then that would have been like, okay, well, we've got to introduce somebody who can actually stand up to her. The other thing with her arc is like we want to see her come into her own and have her power. But part of what I think you and I both love so much about this character is when we are in her internal dialogue. And she's like, even in her internal dialogue, she's like, well, I would never do it like that.
No,
and
she lies to herself. Yeah. The truth about who Nynaeve is like somewhere in between what other people see and what she says. Like that's the truth of who she is. And that's what makes her story interesting to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think what you can't have is you can't have her self-realization happen at the same time her block is broken, because then we have nowhere to go for the rest of forever. So by breaking her block and her being like, oh, and she can start to feel her oats and she can be like, now I can channel whenever I want. And now at this point is when she's going to actually confront a Forsaken who can stand up to her power for power. Now we get to see her, because I hope we still have the confrontation with Moggy. I think we have to after the like caressing of the cheek and all of that stuff. But part of what I love about that storyline too is, oh God, I get teary thinking about it. Like the moments when she's like, it was my pride. I thought I could take her on, and that's why Brigitte is with us. And like, and then her being like, I owe you everything because I screwed up, and like, being like super subservient to Brigitte for that like period of time. Once again, I will say no circus and thank you very much. But, which we're not going to get because we saw the spinning wheel. We got it. We did it. We're all fine. But I think that that journey of her, like, wait, now that I can I have all this power, but I still haven't figured myself out inside yet. I think will be more interesting if we're like, oh, just because you can be more powerful than anybody in 1,000 years doesn't mean you have your shit figured out. And so then we get to live in her emotional journey as we go there, which isn't anything different than you're saying. I mean, you're just saying, I wish we'd been able to see a little bit more of it. But I just think that they're going to let us live in her arc next season of like feeling good, getting there, getting shut down, having to come back from it, realizing there's humility in it as well. And I think it'll be, I don't know. I think they're setting up for a really good story arc for her next season.
I hope so, but like I said, what happened with that moment, probably more than the Swan moment, was the moment where I went, I don't trust you anymore, without like realizing that was the emotional reaction I was having. It was just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And like if I had known, I wouldn't have been enjoying the season as much, which granted, I enjoying things, so I'm glad, but because I thought I knew where we were building towards.
Right.
I was excited about things, and now when I go back, I'm just like, well, what? She's not doing anything. She's not doing anything here. Oh, she's not doing anything here. Oh, she's not. Oh, she did something here, but it was bad. Like that was, Nynaeve being in situations like in the books. She's like loud and she takes up space and whatever, but her presence generally, mostly, makes things better. Whereas in the show, her presence, like she's the reason that Egwene got captured because she trusted Liandrin. She's the reason that Rima got enslaved. She's the reason that Rima's warder got killed. She's the reason that she's literally the reason that Leandrin has the bracelet. Leandrin wouldn't have been able to find it without Nynaeve. Like Leandrin literally couldn't. She had it in her hand and she threw it on the ground. That mission would have been better if Nynaeve had taken a nap and stayed home. Like that's not who no. What the fuck?
I mean, but it's right. Okay. Because you're right. Like they added her relationship with Leandrin to get them to Sanche. Like that was one I hadn't considered. I knew that like the Rima thing, yes, but I hadn't
Although
considered.
It's not even they just added the Nynaeve went to Egwene and told her. She could have just gone on her own, but she went to Egwene and told her. Like she's the reason that Egwene went there.
Yeah.
Well, no, but Egwene still has her own agency. She made her own choice to go, and she was like,
"It's true.
You think I would sit here if I knew this?" And I think if Nynaeve had gone without telling her, Egwene would have been pissed.
Probably.
So I mean, so there's that side of it. But yes, it's less about Leandrin being like, "Come, little puppies, and let's go."
Yes,
it was more like Nynaeve saying, "Let's do this."
Nynaeve trusted her. Yeah.
Yes, but also, like that said, I don't agree. I mean, I think you can point to those three things of like she's made a decision or a choice and been unable to do something. Like her being unable to channel during Leandrin's during the shredding at the beginning of the season, like didn't matter. That didn't do anything. Like if she'd been able to channel, she probably would have been able to like do a little more and maybe save the poor little yellow over on the side who got cut in half. But but like other
brown,
that,
it was
like,
a brown.
Oh, it was a brown. You're right.
Yes.
So she wouldn't have cared. But but I do think that there is. I mean, what's interesting to me is that like her power of being able to heal a room full of people in season 1, it almost rendered useless this season anyway, because literally people were taking arrows left, right, and center and like just being like, heal up, heal up, heal up, heal up, everybody. So, that made her being able to heal less important when they are surrounded by sisters everywhere. And I also think, but when you say that, like, I think that she really has done some incredible things. I mean, first of all, she killed the Trolloc. Then she shows up and heals everybody after Logain explodes. Then she, I mean, this has nothing to do with her power or not power, but she gives Stepan what he needs to be able to drug Lan.
Yeah.
But out of compassion and out of love. And I just think that they're showing a show where people make bad choices and bad mistakes all the time, because that's what the book series is as well. Like we're going to watch Rand make bad decisions, and we just watched him make a really bad decision because it ended up in the death of Alcera. So I think that is something that the book will the show will continue to really be like people make mistakes, and I don't think they're unearned. I think in Game of Thrones, and I don't mean to keep coming back to that, but I think in Game of Thrones, people make bad decisions and bad choices, and it's like it's like it's so disgustingly tragic or has like a really horrible side effect, and like there's so many. I loved the show in many ways, but it's also horrible and gross in so many ways. I think that they're playing in a really real playground here, a real sandbox of, people with the best intentions make mistakes or do things wrong or don't understand that the consequence is going to be something, obviously Rand was trying to save people,
Yeah, obviously.
himself
Yeah.
included. And so she's not the only one. And to go back to where we started, which is with Siuan, a lot of people have been feeling very much like, but Siuan just made bad choice after bad choice after bad choice, and then she died.
Yeah.
She made really good choices too. She did do some really great things. She did put some people in the right places. She did in the end, like, I know that she tried to make Moraine close it, but also she was trying to do that for the right reason. And she she talked to Rand one-on-one. I mean, she was like, this is what we're going to do. But she didn't put him in a box.
No.
And I think that I think that's themically going to be a big part of the show, is that people don't do the right thing when they have power. They don't do the right thing when they don't have power. Sometimes they do the right thing and it feels really natural. And I think we're even overlooking a lot of the good things they've done. I mean, Nynaeve came in and she was like, all right, I can't heal you the way that Rima was trying to heal you, but I can talk to you about it and I can help you, Matt, with the tools that I have. And she talks to Rand a couple times about about where they've come from. I'm thinking more of the books now, actually, I think, than the show. I'm conflating right now because I'm like, conversations.
They haven't really seen each other. Yeah, she hugged him at the end of episode 1 of the season.
Pretty much it.
Yes, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah,
but there's I just think that there's a lot more subtlety, and I think a big part of what they're showing is that people are, when they have power, maybe that's when they're not doing things well. But when when they are just being themselves and trusting themselves is when they actually do things well.
Okay.
I think giving us the time to get there next season with her is better. I think it would have been just like, I want to live in her world longer, and we didn't.
I do too, but I want her to be. Nynaeve isn't useless. Nynaeve is a lot of things, and I honestly do not have a problem with people not liking Nynaeve if they don't like her because of her personality. I get it. Like, she's a lot. She's a lot, and I 100% understand that. But Nynaeve is not useless, and I think, what was the phrase I used? Like, the most useful thing she did this season was spot a symbol on the floor. That's it. She spotted something. Egwene or Elaine was the one who did the research and figured out what the symbol was. I'm just, she doesn't feel like people are forgetting she's there, and I'm also missing. Oh, that was the other part. A part of one of the reasons I think both you and I love her character is the imposter syndrome aspect of it, where she's doing a good job, but she thinks she's failing constantly. Like, even her confrontation with Moggy, I love it for so many reasons, but one of the moments that I love is one that people often forget is after she tries to capture Moggy to take her back to, like, get punishment, and she fails at that one little part of it. Like, she fails at taking her back, and so because of that, she thinks she's failed, and she apologizes to Elaine and Egwene, and they're both like, "What the fuck? You mean you bested a Forsaken, and you got the thing we came here for?"
I'm so sorry. I let her go, and they're like, are you lying about the fact that did you just, and isn't it Elaine's point of view? And Elaine's kind of like, yeah, sure, she did.
Elaine's like, she's like, okay, as long as you've taken accountability. Like, that's Elaine's reaction is something like that. Like, it's so weird.
I know.
But
I know.
she apologizes because she thinks she failed. Like, that, it's the gap again between the reality of what's happening and her perspective on this. And in the show, the reality is that she's failing, and so that she feels like she's failing. It doesn't feel like imposter syndrome to me. It feels like she's actually correctly assessing herself. And so we're missing some of the, for me, we're missing the part of her story that I'm like, but that no, she has imposter syndrome. She's not actually an imposter. Like that.
I get that, but I just don't see that. I think that she's failing. I think she's failing in some big places that we see and that are very visible. And I think she's winning in so many places that are just not getting remembered or noticed. I really do. I really do. Even like to the moment where she says like that woman's a snake about Leandrin at the very beginning, but then her also like
Yeah.
I think the reason that Leandrin ends up with the bracelet,
I'm just gonna
the
say,
thing at
point
the
out,
end is
you do keep pointing out things from season 1.
I know. I realize I'm doing that too, and I'm like, and
Yeah,
I really defended her being useless at the end of season 2
I
because I
defended
was
it
like, yeah.
too. I
I was like, because
defended it too.
she's got to have an arc, and we didn't. I
Mhm,
think that's part of it is that we defended that in season 2 because we knew
mhm.
she was going to get this great arc in season 3, and
Yeah.
then it didn't really quite. She didn't get the arc
No,
that we
she didn't
wanted.
complete it, which means like she got close to it, but she didn't complete it, which means
Mhm.
like it's incomplete. Like it's if you get 99% of the way there, but you're not there, you still didn't arrive. Like
Yes,
that's you know what I mean?
my husband, who is absolutely not a sports fan at all, always says
Yeah.
it's like when you're 1 yard from the touchdown. Or he says it, and I'm like, why are you using sports analogies? But he does it all the time, and that's the one
Yeah.
sports analogy he uses. But that's kind of it. It's like they just didn't
Yeah.
cross the goal line. And
Mhm,
yes, and I think that is valid. Is that like I it almost would have been okay if she didn't have a big power moment at the end if
mhm.
she had been more successful in her sleuthing or in some of the other things, I think.
Yeah.
And
For me,
they were
that would have been
subtle. They
mhm,
were subtle, and they were, i- it was Min who figured out like that they were chasing Joya, and it was,
yeah.
and so even some of that stuff wasn't. I mean, she did find it, but then she immediately lost it. It also like completely
Mhm.
depleted that win by
She
having.
also
But
didn't
I
even
also,
try to fight. That drove me crazy. Like Leandra just took it
yes,
out of her hand, and I was like,
yeah. Well, she
no.
was wrapped in weaves. She
I
was wrapped in
know.
weaves.
But she didn't even like. There was not even a
I know.
struggle. Like she was just like,
I
here.
know. I was like, come on, give me a little more. But I also thought that there was an aspect of her compassion. Like
I
part of
loved
what,
that. I
yes,
loved that.
yes.
Yeah.
And it was no one can, she even said like,
Yeah.
I heard the phrase, no one can walk so long in the dark that they
Mhm,
can't come back to the light. Like I loved, or so long in the shadow. And I think that
mhm,
there's that despite Nynaeve seeing like the person who's like glass half empty
mhm.
on the surface,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
really is an optimist at
I
heart.
mean,
Like she
it's that
truly
quote
does.
from like the very end of like she's somebody who refuses to believe that she can't help. That is, someone on
Yeah.
Reddit years ago described Nynaeve as the person who will give all the fucks always, and that is who Nynaeve is. I always think of that. Like Nynaeve is genetically, congenitally incapable of not giving a fuck. Like she
Yes.
will always
Yes.
put her
Yes.
whole ass into everything that she does, and it's why it's something about her that I actually see as aspirational. It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
wish I
Yeah.
had that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure. For sure. Yeah.
So her like trying to save Leandrin in that moment, like even like taking it back to that Moggy thing, anybody else would have killed Moggy in that moment. But no, Nynaeve
Right.
is like, I have to take her back for justice. That's the right thing to do. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it the right way. And her trying to
Yeah.
save Leandrin, like that
Yeah.
moment, I loved everything about it up until the like she literally just let it go. I know that
I
she
know.
would have lost that one, but like no, Nynaeve doesn't not try. Like that's
Right.
yeah.
Right. No, I mean that's true. And I guess, if anything, even again, like if we hadn't seen her powered, but if we had seen her like, all right, sorry, and because I don't want to be, I don't want to be critical of the choices that they were making as actors, as performers, as
Mm,
directors, as writers. I want to be careful not to be critical of that. There was something about the beatific smile that,
mm,
like, the relief that she finally found it, but. That's where I felt a disconnect with her character from me,
mm.
my
Yeah,
canon for
yeah.
Nynaeve, which is that like that would have been so fleeting and immediately followed by the determination look. And so
Yes.
even if we had seen her like go and like
Mhm.
walk in
That
and
would
then
have
never got
changed
in a
it. Yeah.
battle,
That
and
would
then
have
just like
changed it for me too.
as they
Yeah.
were on the
Yeah.
boats, they were like, they were too far gone, or like, or she walks in and we see a boat going away in the distance or, or whatever. Like there's a thing we say in improv or even in dialogue of like, what is the next smallest logical step? Like when you're saying a line of dialogue in improv, like instead of being like, something completely new, like this blue sky, like, oh, and by the way, the aliens came down. Like, when someone says good morning, it's, the next logical thing was missing for me in that moment. And so I do agree with that, but I can forgive that because I still feel like we're going to get such a great arc for her next season. I really do. So I can
moment,
forgive that as, yeah.
Yeah. That
It might
moment
have even been on
reminded
the
me
cutting
of,
room floor.
that's true. It reminded me of the only other moment in the show where I felt, oh, I'm not sure they understand Nynaeve. But granted, it's from season 1, episode 8, and then we all know all of the hurdles that they had to go through with episode 8. But like when she's going to Egwene to like take some of the, basically the overpower, like sacrificing herself in that moment, and she gives this speech. I'm like, Nynaeve wouldn't give a speech in that moment. She'd just do it. Like Nynaeve does not, like she doesn't. She's just doing the thing. So yeah, even like again, if you watch my reaction in that moment, I was like, stop marveling. Like, why are you marveling? Stop. Nynaeve doesn't marvel. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Right.
Like,
That's fair.
so,
Yes.
I think, it's weird, but I do think, a moment where if it had gone from that to determination, that might have actually fixed the entire thing for me. I don't know if it would have, but it might have, because it would have
and
felt
because
different.
that's what I missed. I loved her. To me, she doesn't self-reflect so long that she just stops acting. And the thing about Nynaeve is that she is impulsive and she is action first. Like,
yes,
she's supposed to be the wisdom. She's supposed to think about it first, and she doesn't. And again, like that's where I really relate. So I think that was what I was like, great, I got it now. I'm going. Like, and maybe that is what would have helped sell it. I think from a story standpoint, knowing they weren't going to pursue more of that storyline this season, other than chasing them from the boat, it might have been an editorial decision. They might have been like, they might have had that moment, and then they might have just been like, this is going to be confusing. People are going to be waiting to see what's next. They're going to be waiting to see the other thing. Like people are, I like somebody online was like, they didn't explain Rima coming back. Like, why would they not explain it? And I'm like,
what?
Because she got freed when Egwene got freed, and she's there, and she's back in the tower now. Come on, like it doesn't take a lot.
That to me was the easy. Yeah, that was the most easy math ever for me. But okay,
but people were really mad. They were like, I needed someone to just say, I'm so glad you got away from the Shantran and got to come home. And I'm like, why? We all know, like we don't need to waste dialogue on that. And so it's possible that someone said, well, people be confused if we see her stalk into the building and then we don't see what happens at the end. Like them being on the boat, I guess, allows us to jump into season 3 already on the chase, not have to pick up season 3 in the Panarch's palace and say, oh, they've gone, let's get on a boat.
Right. I don't even know if I would have wanted her to stalk into the palace, but to just have her expression go from like, oh my God, this is incredible, to, okay, now let's get to business. That would have been almost enough for me, I think.
Yeah. And that would have been a really simple choice. And I would be curious to know if it was written in there, if it was cut for time. But I think that I think that's a really good point. Like that would have helped me hold on to her character. And I don't think that it's, again, like I don't think it's not thought of. I just think it wasn't executed.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Okay. Because like that, I guess my issue, as I said before, I don't think we can have Nynaeve at a 10 all the time. So, but I don't think we got, I'm trying to think if we got any of her at a 10 this season. And I don't think we did. And we get like last season, maybe once, but I don't think we haven't seen her be fully herself for 2 full seasons. And I feel like it's been so long that it makes me go, I don't know that they know who she is anymore. And that's where I do think that their thinking is, oh, it'll be fine next season. And I realizing as that person said in the comments that, okay, I now have to give grace to the people who are like, well, I'm feeling that about Perrin, or I'm feeling that about Rand. And I'm like, okay, I understand it now because I'm totally feeling that. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? You also bring up a really good point, which is, look, it's a limited number of episodes, and it's a limited writers room, and we know that Justine really took on the Maureen Swan storyline, and that was her baby, was really exploring that storyline and deepening that relationship and really, really leaning into those characters. We know that Rafe has taken some of the really big tentpole moments of like Rand going through the
Episode
arches.
4, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that, oh,
yeah.
so good.
And Rami wrote Tenchiko, Rami wrote the fun episode in Tenchiko with the singing and stuff. But I'm like, you've only got a few writers and you have this many characters to service, and we've decided to make the Maureen Swan thing a really big thing as well. So like you've got that kind of stealing one of the writers' focus. So my question is there somebody in the room who's in love with Nynaeve? And
Right.
my solution to that, as I have been saying all along, is that like I am actually actively trying to get in the writers' room for next season. So my solution is I can write you those Nynaeve storylines because I know them inside and out and I know her so well. So so you can have faith again when I get into the writers' room and that happens. It
oh my
actually
God,
could
if you get
happen,
it,
so.
yeah. If you do, please, I will have so much faith.
But I
yeah.
think that's, I don't, and also like no shade on Rafe, but when Rafe talks about his favorite storylines and his favorite characters, I don't think he's ever said anything like Nynaeve is one of his favorite characters. I'm not sure he said
No.
that. And also I have to say, like, I will even like take a little Nynaeve hit to make sure that Egwene gets the love, because the hate that Egwene gets in the books makes me crazy.
100%. 100%.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, y'all are dumb. So I put that out
I
there.
think I don't know if I've ever said this to I don't know if I've ever actually said this to you before, but like Egwene isn't one of my favorites. Actually, I have my own, which are not the issues that people on the internet have, but I have my own issues with Egwene. They're just mostly because she hurt Nynaeve's feelings, and that's like that's my issues.
I do.
Yeah,
I get really mad at her when she's all like, "Wait a minute, I can totally boss my wisdom around," and I'm like, "No, you can't. No, you can't."
It's just a very bad look, and the fact that she apologizes to the Aiel, but doesn't apologize to. I had a moment of revelation about this though. I think a year ago, where I was like, "Oh, I know that Egwene is a huge part of the big depression arc that Nynaeve went on, but Egwene doesn't know that, and also Nynaeve doesn't know that. I know,
right?
So I am expecting."
Yes.
But I still want her to be like, hey, I know you saved my life last year and then I was a bitch to you and I'm sorry. like that's, yeah. That's what I would like.
That is fair. I do. That is actually the hardest part. I don't mind all the other stuff people get mad about.
No.
It is that particular thing that I get most upset about. I have to say, I loved this season when they were like, what? You went back into Teleron without or something and blah blah blah.
She was just like,
I couldn't lie. She's like, I lied about that too.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, never mind. It's like, okay, we're totally skipping that arc completely. All right.
It's like, great, we don't get to see her belted and welted for hours on end, so she can't sit on her horse for 3 days.
Yeah. I know what the thing I was gonna say to you though. It's as much as I love Nynaeve, when people tell me they hate Nynaeve, I'm like, oh, okay. When people tell me they hate Egwene, I'm like, suspicious? Why? Are you a misogynist? Are she like, what's wrong? I will come to her defense so hard, even though she's not my favorite, because people's reasons for hating her are usually like, she's mean to Rand.
Yes.
Okay. Rand was literally out doing war crimes, but yeah, sure.
Right. Natram's Barrow, anyone? Let's just come on.
Yeah.
I know. It's true. And it's true. I'm kind of the same way too. I'm like, Nynaeve is so flawed, and she is annoying, and she is self-righteous,
100%.
and she is holier than thou. And it's, I am
love
too.
her.
Like I love her, and she's so beautifully flawed. And agreed. Like, I think that it's easy for me to point to why she's my favorite character in the books. There's it's just so easy. She is, I think, she's the most complex and most interesting character.
Yeah. Do you remember when Origins came out and you saw how many Nynaeve, he had the most backstory for Nynaeve of everybody. Yeah, Nynaeve is a character. I feel like Robert Jordan
isn't she Harriet?
I mean,
isn't she Harriet?
I think they're all the women are Harriet, he said, but I could see Nynaeve being Harriet. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I read that recently or heard that from somebody recently, that it was like Nynaeve was like the most Harriet or something. I don't know if that's true or not, but I would argue yes, because she is absolutely, I think, the most three-dimensional, well-written character in terms of being a real person, especially
until a point where she just
until a certain point.
disappears.
Yeah.
She's just
Yeah.
Anyway, I won't say that thing I was about to say. Anyway,
I know what you're thinking, but I won't say anything. Okay.
yeah,
But I'm not in the same way. Like, look, at the end of the day, all of your arguments are not only valid but also completely valid because of your feelings. Like, those are absolutely real feelings, and I'm also really good at justifying anything. So sometimes I can like go too far to be like, I can explain why, when I have no idea, because I'm not in the writer's room and I'm not there doing what they're doing yet. Thank you. But I do really trust the process. I mean, look, people who have the best intentions and who are really thoughtful and really careful about their whole arc still make bad choices and decisions along the way, or drop the ball here, or like don't pay something off. And sometimes it doesn't get paid off because they ran out of time, money, or something. And sometimes they don't get paid off because they forgot that they started it and they're creating it and it's all fake. You know, and not everything has a payoff. So, you know,
fake. I love that.
It's all fake.
It's so true. I actually did say that to somebody recently. I was like, you do realize this is not a real story, right? Like, it's all made up. Everything. I can't remember what context it was. It's just like, look, I'm annoyed by it, but like, it's not real. So I'm not like, my whole life, it's not ruined.
But it's, you know, it is. I haven't lost trust. I haven't lost faith. So if nothing else, I mean, knowing that someone else who's out here having some of the same feelings as you about some of the same story points hasn't lost faith in them still continuing to tell our story well and know our characters well.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Okay. I weirdly, it does help. Honestly, it weirdly does. I don't know if it will help for anybody, but it weirdly does help me. Next season being the 9, if it is, like, we get to see her finally, like I said, 2 seasons where I feel like we haven't seen her, which would have been fine if I think we'd seen her at the end. I don't know how to ask this question. I'm trying to think of the words to make this question make sense. Do you think that they can they course correct? I don't want to use that term because that
fair.
That term feels very presumptive. I don't like that idea that everything that's happened up until now is an accident. And so, like, I don't think that's true. Like, I don't even like people using that term to describe this season versus the other seasons. Like, I don't think there may obviously there were things that they had no control over, but I also think that they knew where they were going and they had to get there quicker than they got there in the books. And so, you know, so I don't want to use that term. Sorry, I'm talking so much because I still can't figure out how to ask this question. Is it too long? I guess is will it have been too long?
Okay. I mean, I think that is a loaded question that's involved in, like, when are you watching it and how are you watching it? So for people who sit down in 10 years and get to see all of it at once, then it's not. Then it's not. And especially now, not that I'm trying to explain that I think it's a good idea to have shorter seasons, but since it is the ongoing, I'm getting my fist up. I just love that your avatar can flip me off. It is so amazing.
I know. I love it. Sorry. I'm ready to fight you, but I know what you're going to say.
Exactly. But there is something to be said about having 10 episodes. Now, the problem with the expectation in today's audience is that our television is going to be as good as our films, and that they are this cinematic and they have this level of effects and they have this level of work, just means that we have these like ridiculously protracted seasons already, on top of Amazon dragging their feet about potentially bringing in another one. You know, the fact that they greenlit season 3 when they did, and we're like, we're going to try to keep the ball rolling, and that they dropped it earlier than I expected. I thought it was going to be third quarter. So like that they dropped it when they did, like, to me was all like positive movement in the getting the things going. And now with the industry contracting and everybody being like, we're going to hold our breath for as long as we can, they are causing problems. And that means that those arcs that might have been doable if we were watching them a little more quickly feel like a really long time. Now, for somebody who waited 3.5 years for some of the books to come out, it doesn't feel unnatural to me. I mean, you know, Perrin's not even in some of the books, and Nynaeve has really long periods of time where she's not getting anywhere. Like, I'll just say it again, circus. Sorry. I know everybody loves the circus. I don't love the circus. Um,
Book 5 is like book 4 and 5 are like tied for my favorites. I vacillate between them, but I do find I know I read book 5 differently than a lot of people. They're like, "Oh, it's so funny." I'm like, "No, it's Nynaeve's depression arc." It's
yeah.
like,
Well, here's what's funny. I'm reading. I kind of half started book 5. It's one of the few I don't have in audiobooks, so I haven't
oh,
been keeping it up quickly. In fact, I
oh,
literally just had it in my hands like half an hour ago. It's right there.
oh,
And but I have so I like started to open it and then I didn't, and I was because I finished book 4 before the season started. And
oh.
at least we're not going to get to the circus in this book. We get into and out
No,
of the circus in this
that's the
book.
circus book. That's the circus book. What are you
I was
talking
like,
about?
I know. I was like, we're not even going to get there, and then we're going to be there for like 3 books, right?
No, it's
And
the
I
circus
flipped,
book.
and I flipped to the end of 5, and I'm like, wait, it's the riot. It's the riot
Yeah.
with Uno and I'm like, and Masima, and I'm like, this all happens in one book. They go to the circus and get out of the circus in one book.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yeah. And the
That's
circus comes
crazy.
back, but it's this.
And then the
Book
circus comes
5
back.
is
I
the
think it's because the
yeah,
circus comes back, and then
yeah,
Matt's at the circus for forever for 17
yeah.
books. But
Matt's there for Matt might be there
yeah,
for multiple books.
he is
I don't know. I
for
don't pay
sure.
attention to Matt as much as I
Me
pay
either.
attention to Nynaeve. So
Me
sorry.
either. I know. But it felt like they were there forever. And then and I honestly I hate the scene where she's like screaming when Birgit is shooting at her and like the red dress and she doesn't.
Oh, that's
I don't love it.
again.
I don't love
Do
it.
feel like that. I do feel like it's a book where it's a lot of like, oh, let's make fun of Nynaeve because she's so powerful, and I'm like, and I don't like people like Nynaeve's arc to getting into the booby dresses is Egwene, or not Egwene, Birgitta bullying her into wearing a booby dress that makes her feel exposed and vulnerable. And like, and then she discovers she likes it, so it's fine. Like, but no, the way she got her into that dress was really gross. Like, if a man, like, just put those words in a man's mouth, it's disgusting.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's disgusting coming out of a woman's mouth. Like, what
Yep.
the fuck?
Yep.
Ew.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brigitte has
Yep.
a lot of. I love Brigitte. I again qualifying this. I don't know if we're gonna get Brigitte in the show. We're talking about the show, whatever. I love Brigitte as a character, but she has a lot of woman in a man's world
Questionable.
energy. Yeah, like I feel like a lot of times words are put in her mouth that are meant to be like, no, she's the reason. See, it's coming from a woman, so you have to take it as reasonable. Even so, it's meant to come up be more palatable because it's coming out of her mouth. And then, but it's gross. It's just like, stop
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah.
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 So anyway, yeah, you and I are
Yes.
on the same page about this. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I don't. But to go back to your question of is it
Mhm.
too long? In an ideal world where we weren't trying to cram as many stories into 10. Okay, so like I'm flip-flopping in the sense that I am saying it is very hard to get it into 8 episodes.
Mhm.
If we'd had 10 episodes this season instead of 8, we may have gotten a little farther. We may have gotten
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little more of that arc. And it's a shame that we are disservicing some of our favorite characters because like you said, the people who are Perrin fans are like, they've been waiting for Perrin to
Mhm.
get to do something, and he finally got to do something. And so, we're like, well, y'all saw Nynaeve. She did something in episode 4. So
Yeah.
they're like, we haven't had a chance yet. And I guess in that sense, like, you have to make those hard decisions. And so part of her arc last season of not doing thing was also building the relationship with Elaine. And then part of her
Mhm.
arc this season of not doing thing is like really like figuring out what that relationship with Leandrin is, and that how can you still like her? She literally
Mhm.
helped enslave your best friend. How
Yeah.
can you still like her and her her comment when they're in Tinchiko of like, is this why she's the way she is this town?
Mhm.
It's just and it's like it's a really sweet moment of reflection and of forgiveness for someone's behavior, but then I'm also like, just stop making excuses for her. She's a horrible
Mhm.
person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That was another moment that
know,
I really loved, though. Like, that was a moment where she's enjoying things. She's having fun with Min, and then she sees that girl, and like everybody else can ignore it, but Nynaeve can't. Like, she cannot not care. It's not it's not in her DNA. She sees something wrong, and she can't
yeah.
ignore it. And it's like, oh,
Well, see,
mhm.
they do know. They know who
I
she
do love
is.
that. I love those moments. Yes, but I'm just missing the. I,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, if they had 10 episodes, I would have done more with as much as I love Nynaeve, I would have done more with Perrin, I think, or at least set up the Two Rivers thing differently. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the other thing I was gonna say, I said this to Nablus afterwards. Like I said, if we don't get another season, I'm gonna be mad. And he's like, Jenny, you'd be mad anyways. Like, yeah, but if I had not felt this way at the end
Mhm.
and they didn't
Mhm.
get another season, my thought would have been, well, they tried their best and they did our
Mhm.
characters proud. And right now,
Mhm.
I'm like, if we end here, I'm gonna be mad because especially with Nynaeve, I'm like, no, they didn't. Like, that's what I'm gonna feel like. But I mean, okay, I'm asking you
We
a
could just
question that
wait.
you have literally no way of knowing the answer to.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on the possibilities of another season? I'm feeling hopeful because this season did really well.
I mean, look, I'm glad you asked me straight up directly. I've been on Dusty Wheel a couple of times when I was afraid Matt was going to ask me straight up, and I was like, "Do I want to say what I think?" I don't. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I am the eternal optimist. I think there's so much good in this show, and I think that the show is so good that it wouldn't make sense to not do it. But there are so many extenuating circumstances and factors that just give me pause and also make me being a realist about it. And from literally from the political climate and it being a
Yeah,
show with
with very
women in
prominent
the front,
queer
queer people at
characters.
the front,
Yeah,
and people of color at the front.
yeah.
You know, I ran a
But we gotta
show
have a
that,
woke pope.
but we got a woke pope.
Yes.
Who's going to be like, put the show back on the air, people?
Yes, Pope
I know.
Bob.
Pope
Sorry,
Bob.
I'm gonna call him Pope Bob.
I have to say, I had a little moment this morning. We were watching it live as they were like announcing it, and they came out, and the bishop came out and was speaking in Latin. And I had David with me. David's fluent Italian, and I was like, "You're gonna have to translate." And he was like, "Wait, this is Latin. This is not Italian." And I was like, Latin. Oh my God, wait, they just said his name's going to be Leo the 14th. And then the newscasters were like, we don't know what his name's going to be yet. And I'm like, they just said Leo the 14th. And then,
yeah.
And then like a minute later, they were like, oh, he's going to be Leo the 14th. And I'm like, yeah, because it was there in Latin. So apparently I'm a Latin
You speak Latin.
genius. Apparently I
Yeah.
speak Latin. But yes, I mean, and I'm hopeful, you know, but I'm also here in the studio system where studios are also playing the same game that the law firms are playing, which is like, who's gonna play the game? Who's gonna cave? I mean, you know, I'm not supposed to be ordering from Amazon right now, right? Like so there is an aspect of, well, you know, here's a show we could let go that would be, you know, it's a woke show, whatever.
Right.
Like, you know, that makes me a little bit nervous. The fact that it's taken this long, and you know, I think I've talked to you about this. Like, I had a suspicion that maybe they did have a bridge for the writer's room, and they may have actually, where they actually wrote maybe the first 4, or they broke the first 4 for next season, and they may have still done that even so, and then they're just sitting on those. But it might be that they have scripts ready to go, and that will help with that timeline. But the longer it goes, the less likely. So I am, you know, every day that goes by and Amazon doesn't say yes, the 2 things happen. One is I'm like, phew, because I'm not in the room yet, so I still have time to try to get in the room. So there's that. But the second part is, every day that goes by that they don't say yes, it's just easier to say no. It's easier to just not say. And like that is that's old. That's the way it works in this business forever. And it's worse than ever right now because of all the contraction in the business. So but I'm generally hopeful. I mean, and also Rafe coming off of God of War and being more focused on justice. I'm sure he's got other things going on that he's working on as well. I know he does, in fact. But also Rosamund has a new movie coming out right now. She's, you know, I saw her trailer. I was at the theater the other day. I was like, you're so beautiful on the big screen. But there's that aspect as well. Like, her star is still continuing to rise. Showrunners' star is continuing to rise. So in terms of like names of people that are attached to the show, those are all really good signs. You know, like those are not good signs, but those are good things that will help someone get over the hump of saying yes or no.
Yeah, like with all this, obviously my emotions about it, I had I'm still feeling optimistic, but I have no idea. Like, my optimism is rated in, like, I have been trying to get people to watch the show for a while, and this season, for some reason, I was able to get 4 people in Korea to watch it. Like,
It's awesome.
I don't know why, but that, like, last season, I got 1 of my friends here to watch it, and this season, 4. And, you know, like, I've just seen more people come into it, and obviously I've seen the numbers and stuff, so I'm feeling optimistic.
I am too. The other good news, I mean, I've said this all along, is that Amazon doesn't have the same financial pressures that the other
Yes.
studios do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
Sony does. So there's that. But Sony's really like in a good place right now. Like they're in,
Okay.
I think, in a better place than most of the studios in LA. So,
Mm.
you know, I'm not like I don't have a gut feeling really either way. And that's also just me being self-preservation of like years of,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
knowing that you just never know in this industry. You just never know. But
Yeah.
I'm I feel like, and if leaving Nynaeve, like at the end of the season, is what gets people to say, "I want to know what's going to happen,"
Yeah.
then we'll be like,
Then it will be worth it, I
"Yay!"
suppose. But I just, I'm still having my emotions. But I don't know. I'll put this up on my chat. I have no idea if this will be helpful for anybody else. It's been helpful for me. Like, I have literally not. I think I told you this. I have not gone back and rewatched the season finale. I have not watched anybody. Like, my routine this entire season was, after I get all my, because I don't want to watch anybody else's content until mine is out, because I don't want their thoughts in my head.
Right.
So I would get my content out and then go through and watch everybody else's reaction and breakdown and whatever. Haven't watched anything since the season finale. Like, literally not a second of it, just because I haven't. But I'm feeling better, and like I can approach it without being frustrated. This has been helpful for me. I don't.
Good.
Yeah, we'll see if anybody else cares at all about this conversation whatsoever.
Like, get that woman off your show.
No, I don't. Like, I did. Like, people be like, "Why did you need to process your emotions?" I'm sorry. I'm a lesbian. That's what we do. There was a website. I'm not even gonna say the name of it because they got real turfy. But back in the day, before that was even a term that anybody knew, like, I'm talking like early 2000s, whenever the website would go down, it would say to like the 404 or whatever, it would be like, too much lesbian processing. Yeah, that's what we do. We lesbians, we process things. so much talking through our thoughts and emotions. Anyway,
well, good. I'm glad I'm glad that I could replace that website for the afternoon.
That website is it got real turfy for no reason. I just one day I went back, like, after I haven't not been there for years, and was like, oh, let me go see. Like, that was my okay, not going back here. What the fuck?
Oh no.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
But
anyway, that's a whole other thing. Thank you so much for being willing to do this with me. It's always wonderful to talk to you, obviously, but yeah.
Likewise, but thank you for having me on and for letting me help you process. Yeah.
Yes. It was great. It was really great.
It was really fun.
All right.
It was really fun.
Yes. So that was it. That was our conversation about Nynaeve. And once again, I found this incredibly helpful. I'm hoping it was interesting and maybe helpful for some other people. Though I will say, I did just record my reactions with my sister to episodes 7 and 8, and some of those feelings came back. but no, I like, when I was editing this, I was like, no, this was helpful for me. And I hope it was helpful for you. And also, just gonna say, to the people who have been saying, like, since season 1, that I am a paid Amazon shill, hopefully this clarifies things for you. I'm not. I kind of wish I would. I would not be living in a one-room apartment. I was. But anyway, I always strive to be as genuine and as honest with my feelings and thoughts about the show as I can be. And again, hopefully this clarifies that. But let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. And if you like my content, you want to support me, I also have a Patreon that is linked in the description below. To my patrons, as always, I am so grateful for you. I could not do this without you, so thank you so much. And with that, I am gonna end this here. So please like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.